evidence, but simply on wishful thinking. The goal was to disprove the existence of God. The lack of evidence is something which has haunted evolution's devotees ever since, yet incredibly hasn't diminished its promotion. Roger Oakland, who co-authored the book The Evolution Conspiracy with me, is a former evolutionist himself and biology teacher. Recently, I asked him about evolution, its history, and its impact on education.
Evolution is man's perspective on the origin, the history of the universe, and the origin and history of life. And really it's an attempt to explain away a supernatural explanation for the beginning of all things. So man attempts to come up with his perspective of why we're here, where we've come from in the past.
Who are some of the founding fathers of this evolutionary thought?
First of all, I think it's important to understand that the founding fathers were not overwhelmed with facts which caused them to question the reality of a creator. They were individuals who were looking for an explanation to explain away God the Creator. They didn't want to have to rely upon a supernatural event as the beginning of all things that exist in the universe. One of the key individuals was a man by the name of Erasmus Darwin, who was actually Charles Darwin's grandfather. The interesting thing is that his views seem to be directly related to some of the Eastern mystical views. In fact, he headed up a group which he called the Lunar Society. They met once a month on the full moon, hence the name Lunar Society, and some metaphysical Eastern ideas were actually incorporated into his beliefs. And Erasmus Darwin wrote two books called the Zoonomia, in which he laid out his view on the origin and history of life, that life came into existence from non-life and then progressed and developed over time from lower levels of complexity to higher levels of complexity. Another significant founding father would be Charles Lyell. He's been called the father of uniformitarianism, or the belief that the earth is billions of years old and that the layers of the earth were laid down gradually over very long periods of time. His whole objective was to explain away the view that there had ever been a catastrophic global biblical flood in the past. And so his view was that these layers or strata were laid down gradually, uniformly over long periods, and as a result was then able to cast doubt on the authenticity of a global flood which the Bible talks about. And the major founding father of evolution would be Charles Darwin himself, who popularized the idea that life could be traced to a common ancestor, a simple form of life that then developed and progressed over long periods of time to bring about the existence of every form of life which we see on the earth today.
Have today's educators actually advanced the theory of evolution in a systematic, formal agenda?
I believe so, Carol. As you look back through the history of education, and specifically the last 40 or 50 years, there literally has been a program to use the public schools to advance evolution without being challenged by any alternative views on the subject of origins. And really when you look at this, you see that there's some key individuals who propagated an idea back in the 1930s, who actually wrote up an agenda called the Humanist Manifesto, which basic objective was to advance evolution and to question the reality that there is a creator. And some very interesting individuals were part of this organization. You've heard of John Dewey, who is called the modern father of progressive education, one of the most influential individuals in education in North America. He was a signer of this Humanist Manifesto, along with another gentleman by the name of Francis Potter. An interesting quote could be gleaned from a book that Francis Potter wrote in 1930 called Humanism, a New Religion. He stated, "Education is thus a powerful ally of humanism. What can a theistic Sunday school meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children do to stem the tide of the 5-day program of humanistic teaching?" So it was literally the objective of some of these individuals to use the schools to advance their belief in man, which is based on humanistic belief, which is basically a religion, and to use evolution as the means of explaining away a creator.